I want to bring in Republican strategist and radio host Boyd Matheson on this, who's the former chief of staff for Senator Mike Lee. Boyd, it's good to see you. And let me ask, are these serious concerns? I know it runs the gamut. One has to do with facial hair, so maybe that one not the most serious.
Yeah, that's probably the least serious of all the challenges out there, is whether or not J.D. Vance will shave his beard to be the vice president. I think each of these candidates is really interesting, and obviously former President Trump is wanting to drag this out and get some drama out of it as they roll into the Republican convention in Milwaukee next week. Also, I think he's dragging his feet a little bit simply to let the President Biden drama play out just a little bit more and see if a change, which would be very much in the former president's alley, to do something surprising if things start to shift and it appears that maybe the Democrats would replace the current president on the ballot. So I think there's a lot of things that are still up in the air there. I think one of the big challenges for Senator Rubio is the fact that he would have to change states. It would be a little bit like Dick Cheney with George W. Bush having to declare his residency in Wyoming because he was at the time living in Texas. And so that does prevent an additional challenge in that you need to make sure that that seat in the United States Senate would also remain Republican. Remember, the Republicans are trying to regain control of the Senate. So that is a complicating factor, I think, for the Rubio path there. The other two candidates, though, I think in terms of Governor Burgum and J.D. Vance, neither of them are nearly as tested on the national stage as Marco Rubio. He's been around since 2010, of course, had his own run for the presidency in 2016. So he's a little more vetted in terms of a national presence, does well in a lot of different communities around the country. So that'll be an interesting thing. Ohio, of course, is going to be a bellwether, as it always is. So that gives J.D. Vance a little bit of a look there. Again, he's a little more inexperienced in his first term in the Senate. Burgum as a governor, I think, is an interesting choice and one that I think we'll have to take a look at as we continue to move it forward.
I thought it was interesting. A poll shows that former South Carolina governor, and of course, she had her own run as well, Nikki Haley, would actually best help him win out of this list. 37% of people said someone else. Is there a dark horse candidate we're not considering here? And which of these potential running mates do you think would help Trump win the most?
Yeah, I think in terms of who helps the president the most, I actually think Marco Rubio, despite the complications I just laid out there, he is a very savvy politician. He's a very inspiring speaker on the stump, so he would be a good representative there. He'd be a very interesting compare and contrast with Vice President Kamala Harris. So I think he does a little bit better. I don't think J.D. Vance or Doug Burgum is especially equipped to take on the vice president. We know the vice presidency is not really what it's about. It's about the top of the ticket. So I don't know that any of these is a great advantage. None of them hurt the ticket, to be sure. In terms of any kind of dark horse, I think there are still some angles out there. You mentioned Nikki Haley. I don't think that one's going to happen based on the dynamics between the two. But she is the kind of person that I think if the president were looking to bring some diversity to the ticket, could still be in play as he marches his way towards Milwaukee.
Yeah, if she would ever say yes. Final guess here. Who are you putting your money on? Who do you think he's picking?
My gut says he's kind of leaning towards Doug Burgum, again, just as a governor, someone who can be very strong, has a very strong presence, but is not someone who's going to outshine former President Trump, which is also an important thing, a really important dynamic. I think it is the risk of Marco Rubio. He can, when he turns it on, he can really shine and garner a lot of attention. J.D. Vance has shown that he's pretty savvy in terms of drawing attention himself. Doug Burgum's a little more under the radar, and I think as the number two, we've seen this historically, the former president likes a number two that's a little bit more submissive and will do as told and kind of do the hard work and heavy lifting kind of away from the cameras and away from the spotlight. And so I think maybe Doug Burgum has a slight inside track. But again, I think none of this is decided. I don't think any of it is set in stone. Knowing the former president, he's always apt to change at the very end. I think he's narrowed it down. But I think the dynamics of what is playing out with President Biden and his challenges right now will impact ultimately the decision the former president makes when he gets to Milwaukee next week.
Yeah, we shall see. Boyd Matheson, appreciate the insight and time. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.